Live.
We are.
Okay. Live from New Zealand. I've got Matt and Richard next to me. Woohoo! So hopefully our internet is great over here. It's been a little bit spotty, but anyways, we are in, where exactly are we in New Zealand? Tell us.
Richard, you answer that question.
East coast of the North Island.
Okay.
Central Hawke's Bay. Hawke's Bay is the middle of the east coast, and
Yep.
we're just inland a bit.
Yep. Okay, that's where we're located. And so this is just one of the farms from First Light Farms that source their venison from and their Wagyu beef. And so not sure if you can see, but there's deer right here. I've never been on a venison farm before, so this is really cool. So let me see if people are joining. They're not even live here yet. So we're going to wait.
To ourselves.
We're going to wait and we're going to start again.
Okay.
So hopefully...
Do you think it's because we're too far away from the house for the Wi-Fi?
Maybe. Yeah.
We can move a bit closer.
So once people start coming in.
It felt like a good warm-up though, Rich.
You do? Yeah. Yeah, it says we're telling your followers that you've started a live video. Nobody's on yet, I don't think, but maybe you are. It's cool. Let's see if... Yeah, let me see if I go this way. The signal is better.
I thought that was a great
I'm
start.
getting
We won't
hearts.
have to repeat that.
I don't know if I'm live. Am I? Oh, okay, great. Okay. Yeah, cool. Just see who, maybe you could just like check and see, hi guys, if there's any questions once they start popping up, and then you can kind of rattle them off and we can answer them. This is what live is about. It's very unpolished, if you will. So
Speak for yourself. Holy smoke.
say for yourself. I know, right? I just did a second outfit change because I thought we were hunting and I wore my camo, which, by the way, they laugh at because us Americans are very silly with our outfits. It's not really...
It's not so much just the camo, it's the matching camo that gets us.
The matching
it's the full
camo.
match, like the full suit.
And I literally matched from head to toe. Even my little like harness was matching. Okay, so clearly, if anybody wants a camo suit, I've got one for you. So, so we are here in Hawke's Bay, as Richard had mentioned too, in a venison farm I've never been on, which has been so cool. And Matt's been super helpful in just helping me understand just the process of it and how it's different from, you know, even hunting and wild venison, and how they take care of their animals, which is really cool because it translates to not only tender meat, how it tastes, but also its nutritional quality, which is super cool. So stay tuned to that interview as I interview Jason as well, the founder of First Light Farms, where we kind of dive deep into all of that. But we're here today because, you know, we want you guys to participate, to ask questions, and Danielle over here is going to tell us if there's any questions out there too, and just fire them off. So, but we're here to have fun. So tell us a little bit about how, you know, farming deer and venison is done.
Yeah, so we've got a pretty... Between Richard and I, we should be able to answer most questions. I have a background in hunting, so I was in the professional world of hunting for years, and have moved into First Light 4 years ago. So I look after or manage the whole venison deer business at First Light. So it's everything from having cups of tea with Richard on farm to being at the processing plant and sales and marketing. So right across the whole business. Deer are sensitive. Richard has a background in veterinarian as well as farming, so I'm pretty sure we could cover most questions if they come up between the two of us.
Yeah. Keep going.
But yeah, like I say, as far as farming venison goes, because they haven't been domesticated for very long, they're quite they still very much act like a wild animal.
A bit more feral and domesticated, aren't they?
Yes, they are. So still very much have got a flight or flight system that's very much engaged. If they manage to find their way out of off farm, they revert to being wild pretty quickly. They haven't lost that instinct, which is part of the reason why the meat itself is so beautiful. But what we do and what Richard does, a big part of it is making sure that the deer are relaxed, calm, and are not wanting for anything at any point. And the result of that is you end up with a very tender, very mild and tasty venison. It's high in nutrients nutrient dense, beautiful product. And to get that consistency, you really do have to look after them and remove all of those things that could potentially, see them short on food or see them wound up or stressed at any point in their lives. So when you compare farmed venison taste and wild venison taste, farm venison is a lot more wild. It doesn't have that gamey flavour. It's very tender and very consistent, whereas wild venison, although Richard and I have got a lot of wild venison in our freezers at home, is very different. There's a lot more variability in taste, a lot more variability in age when you harvest it, and when you're harvesting it from the field, bringing it home, that process is a lot less controlled and sterile than what happens at a processing plant. So it means that the products, although it's all venison and all of the nutritional values probably very similar, the actual taste is quite different.
Okay, yeah, and it's really interesting too that we were chatting in the car too as well, just about how there's some friends that have, come over to my house, and I'll ask them if they like, either venison or maybe lamb or something like that. And, oftentimes you'll find people who are a little bit more like either want beef or something of that nature, because they're like, oh, I don't really like venison or lamb, or it's a little too gamey for me or something. And so when they have my meat, it's typically like, wow, I never thought I would like it. Maybe it's the way you cook it. And actually, it's really the quality and where it's from. And so it's really interesting just, and that's kind of my whole message too, is where you source your meat from, not only from a nutritional standpoint and sustainable standpoint, but also like as well as something that I learned today. It's just, it makes a huge difference just in the gaminess and that. So yes, Danielle, is there a question?
Yep, there was a question.
Yes.
How much protein in venison steak?
How much protein? Great question.
You're going to test me now.
Because
it depends how big the steak is.
Yeah, so great question, and solid answer so far is depending on how big the protein or the steak is obviously the first kind of like response question, but can you tell them about the gram?
Yeah, look, as far as a steak goes, gram for gram or ounce for ounce for our American audience, it's the highest ratio of protein to calories that you'll get. So it's super nutrient dense, really high in iron, really high in protein for not a lot of volume. So if you were going to design a superfood or a super meat, it would be venison. It is quite simply the most nutrients dense, best bang for your buck, and in my opinion, best tasting meat you can buy.
So, so there's a lot of women out there too that always ask me like, I can't get in enough protein. And I typically recommend 1 gram of protein per pound of goal body weight. And so for me, I eat about, a pound of ground meat a day, and that could be like an 85-15 blend. But for venison, if you're struggling with getting more meat to meet that protein requirement, I highly recommend choosing venison, because then that'll be a lower volume, and then that's how you can really amplify your protein intake with not the quantity that otherwise like a beef would do. So that's really, really cool and great question. Is there another one?
Yep, there's another one.
Yes.
What flavors go well with venison?
Oh.
Do you want to go?
No, you're the expert cook, man.
Look, earthy flavours are good with venison, and sort of dark fruit flavours are good with venison, I find.
Right.
So when I say earthy, I mean mushroom, I mean, plum, blackberry.
Plum's nice.
Blackberry. I did see one time there was like at a more of a wild game restaurant that they had like a like blueberry, almost like not sauce, but like they reduced it. It was like a reduction sauce or blueberry reduction, and like almost mixed in with like a antelope or venison like liver pate.
Yeah,
it was really good.
Yeah, so those
sweet, hey, like cranberry, another one.
Yeah.
Sometimes with a little bit of alcohol.
Now we're talking the language.
For those of you like brandy over here, I'm not listening. That's okay. Listen, look, whatever tickles your fancy. Great.
Because venison is so lean, the other thing that goes well with the venison and can help people cook venison for the first time is butter. So a good grass-fed butter adds a little bit of, because it is so lean, by adding a little bit of fat into the mix, you can get a bit more of a crisp on the outside of the venison, and that sort of browned caramelized butter does go really well with venison as well.
Oh, interesting.
Smoke, goes well with the venison. So the bigger cuts, smoke and charcoal tends to go well with venison, being a, you know, traditionally a wild game meat. Yeah, that sort of goes hand in hand. But yeah, it's like we talked about before. Because it's so, well, New Zealand farm venison is so mild, it carries flavours really well. So it's actually really universal for a lot of things you do. Everything from using it from ground chilies, lasagna, spaghetti, all that kind of stuff, right through to your, you know, your middle primal cuts like your racks and your all those kind of things. It marries up with all kinds of different flavours.
Yeah, it's really cool. We're actually like in the process of filming a cooking show over here at Richard's spot, and it's just been so much fun here, and so we are going to drop a cooking show on how to actually cook a venison rack, as well as maybe give you a little bit of a sneak peek of a Wagyu ribeye too. But that'll come out in a couple of weeks, so stand by. You could subscribe to my newsletter too, and so I'll definitely give you updates on when that's going to drop. So I'm very excited, and he gives us his expertise of how to cook it too, step by step. So
well, I haven't cooked it yet. I might cook
I
it
know,
up.
right? He might mess it up. But I did want to say one of the other best things to flavor your venison with is, it's not really a flavor, it's just overcooking can be the enemy of this. So which I actually just cooked some ribs last night too as well, and Jason gave me a little bit of a tip too, to just like, you know, how much to cook it for super quick, and just, you know, keeping that center pretty rare. So and yeah, it was one of the best venisons that I cooked. So I'm super pumped about all of these tips that are coming from New Zealand. It's amazing. Danielle, go. There's another question.
2 questions.
Oh.
Is venison hard to cook, and what type of deer are behind you?
Oh, okay. What type of deer? Let's start with that, Richard.
The red deer, European red deer, based around, well, probably New Zealand strain now, but based on European bloodlines, especially English park deer, effectively.
Yeah, so we were lucky in New Zealand when we got all kinds of deer released into New Zealand, probably close to a couple of 100 years ago now, 150 years ago anyway. And red deer are one of the ones that we've got here, as well as elk, which are distinctly different, but at the same time, as far as the evolution of the world goes, not that far separated. But like we say, the venison that we sell in the US is primarily from red deer.
You know what's crazy is I learned on the way here too is that there were no mammals in New Zealand until the Europeans came over and released these deers, and now they have about 5 different species.
Yeah,
correct?
I think 7, isn't it?
Yeah.
7. Oh, okay,
Elk,
I failed that test. Right?
Reds, Samba, Rusa, Sika,
Whitetail.
Whitetail, again from the States,
Yeah.
and more
Fallow deer.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's so cool. Such a cool tip. And then to just learn the history of how farming venison became a thing over here in New Zealand is really, really rad. So we'll share that in the upcoming interview too, as well, with First Light Farms founder Jason. So Richard, you were going to add to that.
What was the other question?
Is venison hard to cook?
Is it hard to cook?
Oh.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Yeah, look, it's really not hard to cook. There's a couple of things that generally with venison makes people raise an eyebrow because they're not used to it. It's when you open a bag of venison, there's a lot more myosin involved, so people get worried about they think it's blood because it's red. It's not actually.
So that's kind of the juice, like the
juice.
bloodiness to
So
it. It's not blood.
There's juice in there, and they open it up and think, oh, that's a bit different, because it is different from beef. There's nothing wrong with it. You just pat it down with a handy towel and you're done. That's all good. It's got a, particularly when you open a vacuum packed bag, you might get a little bit of a metallic smell, and the reason you get that is because it is so high in iron, you can literally smell it. So again, anyone who's got low iron levels, venison is your best possible way of getting your iron level up naturally.
Talking to you, 42% of women in the U.S. you are low on iron.
Exactly.
Eat venison.
Eat venison. It's the best solution you've got. So once you've got it out of the bag, you've patted it down, you let it to go to room temperature, which is the universal advice for all red meat cooking, by the way. Bit of olive oil, bit of salt and pepper, and then onto a medium to hot grill, and cook it medium rare. Where people
You're giving them all the goods of the cooking show.
Well, look, the more we say it, hopefully it'll catch on. It's not that
He's stealing
scary.
the cooking show
It's
thunder.
not hard.
It's
not
revealing
hard.
it.
Just cook it,
kidding,
and
yeah.
it medium rare is perfect.
Yeah.
If you go too far, if you've got a big fatty beef steak, your margin for error is much higher because you've got all that fat in there that keeps adding moisture and keeps it juicy. So
Right.
you can overcook a fatty steak by 10 minutes and get away with it and it still tastes okay.
Yeah.
Because venison is so lean,
Yeah.
you can't overcook it for 10 minutes and get away with it.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
goes bad. So
Right.
you just got to look after it.
Right.
It's a special. Richard and everybody else in the line has taken so much time and effort to
know.
grow it, and we make sure it's looked after on every step of the way.
Yeah.
Just concentrate on cooking it. It won't take you more than 10 minutes.
Yep.
Let it rest, slice it, put more salt down the hatch.
Yeah.
It's not hard to cook, is it? But it's really easy to overcook.
Yes,
It'll be-
that's
Yeah.
the key.
Get off before you're ready.
Like it's when you're standing there at the barbecue and you think, oh, I'll just go grab another beer. Don't do that. Just stop, finish cooking the venison, let
Yeah.
it rest, then go to another beer.
Yeah. I have
Get
some.
better prepared.
Yeah.
Got one more. What cut is the best?
Okay, so let me pause right there just to let you guys know there's a giveaway happening this live. So the more just sort of engaged and questions that you ask, we're going to give it away to a special someone.
What are we giving away?
We're not sure, but hopefully we are giving away something
give you a
because
bit of
I just
venison
threw
to
that
go.
out there. Sorry, First Light. If not, I just, I don't know. I'll figure it out.
We'll come up with a nice venison care package for you.
Oh,
I'm sure.
nice venison care package for you. Yeah, and so going off of that too, actually I did want to ask you more about venison, so it will be an offshoot. So answer the question of which cut is the best.
Depends what you're into.
What do you like? What's your favorite? And why?
I don't actually know what my favourite is. Is it something off the top somewhere that's nice and tender and easy to cook? Yeah, don't think we're particularly fussy. We're
Okay.
surrounded by red meat, so we can probably be a bit
Right.
fussy about the bits.
So
of
it's
meat.
like Monday maybe ground beef, Tuesday maybe a tenderloin.
Yeah, pretty much.
Look,
Yeah, there's
Okay.
no shortage.
for me, once you understand it, you can, as long as you keep your mind open, it's all good. And my favourite cut since I've started working at First Light, so I'll start this with, my background is hunting. So I was always told and hear from anyone who talks about venison that venison fat tastes bad. That is a fallacy. It's incorrect. If you look after venison fat, and because we put our deer through a process that's sterile, clean and controlled, the venison fat doesn't go rancid. If you hunt a deer and hang it in your garage or drag it out of the field, the fat goes rancid really quickly and it takes on a nasty flavour. Whereas our venison, because it's processed in such a fashion that the fat is really good. So for that reason, the cut that I like is the rump cap. So it looks very much like a beef picanha. It's got fat on the top and venison on the bottom. And if you cook that like a duck breast, fat side down, score it, let it render out, flip it over, it is an awesome cut, particularly if you're trying to make the jump between beef and venison. It's kind of the halfway in between.
Yeah.
And look, we've got an office at First Light full of food snobs and meat snobs.
Yeah.
And the venison picanha or rump cap, we some guys can call it the tri-tip, and that's a different story. It's not really a tri-tip; it's actually a rubber cap. But the reason everybody loves that is because of the fat content. So but it's a bit, halfway in between versus a beautiful lean medallion or venison steak.
And from a cost perspective too, is that kind of middle of the line, mid-range?
Yeah, middle round.
Yeah.
Look, if you're wanting to get into venison, we make a venison medallion or venison steak, which is 2 little 8-ounce steaks. Pretty unconfronting, very easy to cook. Already all the cutting's done for you. It's not a big chunk of meat that you then have to deal with.
Right.
That's a good way to start, and that's a pretty middle of the road, cost effective, but super tender, lovely bit of meat to eat too.
Awesome.
Rump cap sounds like nice to eat just when you describe
Rump,
it.
I know, it's like, get rid of the ribs that we're cooking and the
Look,
wagyu right
unfortunately,
now.
I
It's just like the rump cap I want.
Bring any rump caps with me, but
Dang.
here's a plug for us. There is a video of me cooking a rump cap
Yeah.
on the First Light website in the
Oh,
US. So
really?
if you go jump on there and have a look, there is a picture of me
Okay.
frying one up. So
What is it? Firstlight.com, firstlightfarms.com.
something along those lines.
Tell
Mel's-
us, Danielle.
What's
the website, the actual
It's on the
URL?
back of my truck. I think it's firstlight.farm.
Firstlight.farm.
Firstlight.farm. There you
Well,
go.
Richard, we've also got one on here.
Okay.
There's another one to do with cooking, but you'll cover that in your cooking show.
Okay, yeah.
There's one that's
Stay
what's
tuned.
the biggest difference in taste between wild and farmed venison?
Oh, okay. So this is actually really interesting because, well, from what I've learned recently is that this is kind of what separates First Light from a lot of different, you know, maybe if you're hunting or wild game, and also just from a flavor and taste experience. So I really appreciate their attention to detail when it comes to farming venison. And this is kind of what I do out here, and what I'm passionate about too, is just bringing you guys closer to, you know, to your farmers and to those that are also involved in as a collective, right? And putting together these farmers to bring you guys such high quality meats. And for me, it's really all about the details. It's not even so much about, you know, we're sitting on here and talk about tenderloins and ribeyes and racks, and that's all good. But I think like the real meat of it, right?
Nice.
See
Yeah,
what I
that
did
wasn't
there?
bad. Yeah,
You guys, that was a little plug.
Yeah.
Gives more people time to just enter into the giveaway down here. But anyways, the meat of it is the motives behind it, the core values, and you've been a hunter for so long. Your family's been farming for so long, and you as well too. You've just been farming forever, and as a hunter too, from, you know, internationally. It's why are we laughing? No.
Because he's been at farming forever.
Forever.
How old do you think he is?
Since he can remember. We have tons of giggles over here in New Zealand too. It's quite hysterical. So yeah, he's in a wheelchair. So those are really the values and these moments too. It's just like if we can connect more with our producers and with our farmers, that's really what health means to me. And I know some of my audience out there really cares about that too as well. So sorry, that's kind of a longer segue into what's the difference between wild venison as opposed to farm-raised venison.
There's a number of ways to attack this question. The reason that our venison is consistently mild compared to wild and consistent in tenderness is because we control the parameters leading up to the point where we process them. So, you know, they're processed all at the same age. They've all been eating grass. It's a non-stress environment right from when they're born to when they're processed. So they don't have those stresses of looking over their shoulder, see if there's a wolf sneaking up on them constantly like they do in the wild. And then also, if you take it from the other side, a wild deer in New Zealand or in the United States or wherever, they have they're constantly in a fight for food, in a fight for safety, in a fight for space, you know, trying not to run into people, animals, wolves, cars, whatever it might be. So it's a very variable lifestyle. So what that means is they don't necessarily taste bad, but you can guarantee that they're going to taste different to each other. And then also, from a hunting perspective, particularly in North America, you guys are restricted to seasons.
This is super interesting.
Seasons, and you're restricted to shooting a mature animal, which makes sense from a conservation animal management point of view. What's the best way to manage an animal population through hunting? It is harvesting the mature males that are no longer in the breeding cycle anymore. That doesn't have an overall impact. So because you guys have such good animal management, it means that your animal selection from an eating point of view, to be quite frank, couldn't be much worse, because you're harvesting an animal in the middle of the breeding season. So deer, right across all the different species, their metabolism changes.
Hormonally, like they are jazzed, in other words.
Hormones, they stop eating, they're running around fighting each other, they're chasing women, they are stressed, they're wound up, and they're tired. And that's when they get harvested in a hunting season. So right from the word go, your eating quality is going to come down. So we avoid all of that stuff when we process them or when we farm them.
We're not sending those animals to you.
No, we don't. And we're not sending them once they get to, you know, sexual maturity and old. We don't process them into this value chain either. So the deer that we process for first light are young. They are all harvested at the same time as a group, so they're a consistent body size. Like all of our deer that come through the plant are within 2 or 3% of each other weight-wise for a young animal. So you end up with a very consistent product that's mild, tender, and, you know, as good as it possibly can be. Like these guys have got nothing to worry about, really. Like they are relaxed and eating and chilling out their entire lives.
Yeah, and it's actually really interesting. I mean, I've gone hunting a couple of times too, and even though they still have those instinctual sort of fight or flight, as you were mentioning before. Instincts, really, they're way more like, it's almost like I can feel their energy when you're out in the wild. It's just way more skittish. So that makes sense for me. So we have probably about maybe 5 more minutes. How long have we been on here for? One more question. So
I think partly about taste, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that, like, you've done a lot more hunting than I have, Matt. But I know, like, when I hunted in Montana,
yeah,
and we shot those horrible big old bucks you're talking about, and we ate them. It's a real lottery what the quality's like. Like it's probably going to be pretty tough, but you might get an animal that's actually not so bad. But it's what they're eating in the wild sort of permeates the smell. I found it really peculiar eating venison that tasted like sagebrush, because I've been walking through it all day. I found it, and you know, it's just so different than the mild farm deer, and maybe that's also clicks into where you're talking about the flavours, the thing that you add to it to make it. What you can do with the venison, whereas something like, you know, well, I don't know, that it was overwhelming to me, that sagebrush flavour and smell, and the mule deer that we were eating.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. And also too, something that I found interesting was was it smoke that you guys used too before sort of like harvest? Was I a good student and paid attention then?
The what?
Point?
Sorry.
The something that you used to help with their like lessen
no,
anxiety.
and we give them a bit of a sprinkler system at the.
Oh yeah.
It keeps them calm. Yeah,
right. Right. It's not.
It's dark. They can't see anything. There's no light coming in. It's consistent light level the whole time. It's all about keeping the animal calm.
Yep.
Right up to the point where it has one bad day.
Yep. Yeah, the smoke was from the bees, actually. I got it confused. I'm still here in New Zealand doing honey, and then shifted to the venison.
Smoke for the bees. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second, it's the sprinkles. PNC. So we have just a few more minutes. We might take one more question. Don't forget to just, engage down below. You get to be entered into a giveaway to win a meat box, which we haven't decided yet, but we'll decide for you.
Mel's probably watching. We should do a venison box, Mel. Give us a thumbs up.
Just give us a thumbs up down below. And yep, also we have a cooking show coming out with these guys to show us how to do venison rack, which is amazing, and then also an interview in the coming weeks with First Light as we dive deeper into this. We have one more question.
Yes. Are there any specific considerations for sorting or handling venison safely?
The meat.
From a producer standpoint, or from
a cooking standpoint?
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not too dissimilar to any other red meat, to be honest with you. It's keep it cold while you're not eating it, bring it up to room temperature when you do, and cook it and eat it. It's no different to anything else. What I was saying before, what tends to raise some eyebrows for some people is you look at a piece of venison, particularly a big piece of venison in a vacuum packed bag, that looks like there's a lot of blood in there. It's not blood. It's normal for venison. It's myosin. It's just, we get, for better or worse, because it's so low in fat and lean and a bunch of other scientific reasons that I don't particularly understand, you get more purge in the bag with the venison, and don't be scared of it. It's perfectly fine. It's supposed to be like that. Just open the bag, patter it off with a paper towel, and you're good to go.
Okay, cool. Yep, and at First Light Farms too, just kind of like tag your handle in there as well, so that people know where to go if they want to check to see where they can get venison, or they have like fabulous. I know we were talking about venison a lot here because we are on a deer farm, or venison farm. Do you guys call it venison farm? Because there's different types of deer.
Deer farms, don't we?
Deer farm.
Yeah,
oh, you do? Oh, okay, so I said that
covers
right.
Everything.
I'm like knighted a Kiwi now, just talking their lingo, but they also, they,
funny words.
I know, right? Exactly. Bits and bobs, and then what did you say? Whip off the
This is whipping off a bit
whip
of
off the silver skin. So many things. But they also have beautiful Wagyu beef, which I've never tasted beef like this before, and it's the only 100% grass-fed Wagyu that you can find anywhere in the world, and it's really cool. And I love it because it's not as heavy. I'm not a big Wagyu person anyways, but this one, it really makes it easy to cook. Talk about easy to cook. I know venison is easy to cook, but
Wagyu's harder to mess up.
harder to mess up, right? So if you're one of those who doesn't trust yourself in the kitchen, maybe you want to go for Wagyu first and get a little...
Get yourself a venison rump cap. I'm telling you, it's the good transition.
Well, shoot, we have to get rid of our whole thing
Can you
now.
give another into the giveaway box?
Yeah, I reckon we probably can.
Oh.
Mel will have something up his sleeve,
Well,
surely.
Mel, give us a thumbs up for the rump cap. One more question, or are we good?
No, we're good.
Okay, cool. So we're going to have to pick a winner because when I stop this live, then I can't see anybody, and I just want to make sure everybody's accounted for. So somebody at First Light, pick a winner. That's exciting. So congratulations. We don't know who it is yet, but thanks for joining, everyone. This was Matt. He's like, he's going to try to pick it now. This is just at random, so you know, too. And this is Richard, and this is one of, how many venison farms do you guys have under First Light?
Let's go 75.
75. And this is the type of relationships that they have with all of them, right? So,
Yeah, we make a point to go and annoy our farmers at least once a year.
and that's exciting because
It
it's...
reminds me, you must be due to be annoyed.
And I love it because I love to annoy those that I also, get my meat from too as well. Just, because we like to hold each other accountable, have these conversations, maybe have a cappuccino and, some good giggles. But yeah, so I love what First Light Farms is doing over here. And then they also have some similar to the venison side. They also have that with elk and Wagyu farms as well. And so you can check them all out on their website and then see all the different farms that you're supporting. And yeah, so thanks so much, guys, for joining us today. We're going to close out here. We're going to start finish the rest of our cooking show. Hopefully Matt won't mess it up because
Must be the chance if he doesn't.
I know. It's going to be a fun show. Stay tuned. Subscribe to my newsletter so you can get updates on when the cooking show is going to drop and the interview. Thank you, guys. See you. Say bye-bye. Okay, bye.